Thanks, people, for the intro.
Yeah.
Let me know if it's too slow because of my camera. Then I can turn it off.
No problem.
Otherwise, I'll keep it on. And let me share the screen. Okay. I kind of forgot how to share screen on this.
It's on, I think it's the bottom left.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I got it. Sorry. All right. Can someone confirm if the screen is on? You're supposed to see the first slide.
Yes, I can see.
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, so as the people mentioned, that a few days ago or a few weeks ago, I wrote a post on LinkedIn trying to convince data scientists to use Nix because it actually solves a lot of the painful problems that data scientists or data engineers frequently encounter. So, and when the people asked me to to give a talk, I was hesitating because actually I don't know much about Nix. So, but on the other hand, I think that makes me a good speaker for this topic because I still have the beginner perspective. So I decided, okay, why not? And it's I hope it's helpful in general for the community. So the more people use Nix, the better I will end up. So that's a win-win. Okay, the people mentioned that I use Nix in production. That's true. So I have a startup project under the company I registered, but since the product is not launched, so I think it doesn't count. And in this talk, I'll focus on how to get started with Nix. So I won't touch a lot about the heavy provision stuff you need in production environment. So probably I'll touch a bit here and there. But generally it says for beginners. And if you have questions, you can leave it in the chat. I think the people will collect them. I do prefer to continue the talk until the demo. Then while I'm doing the demo, feel free to jump in on your mic. Yeah, so interaction is welcome during the demo. If you can, please hold the question till after the slide presentation. Okay. So, okay, before talking about what the Nix ecosystem is about, let's focus on the problem, right? We don't want to use a tool, or especially a new tool, just for the sake of using it or learning, right? So what got me into using Nix were the following issues. The first one, reproducing software environment. So on the individual level, well, it can be changing your hardware, right? So you can, for example, you got a new laptop and you want to migrate all your working toolings to the new device, or just have multiple devices that you can, for example, you can have a powerful workstation at home. If you do heavy compilation stuff or machine learning, and the same environment on the laptop where you can bring it to a client. So that will be handy, or while you're traveling. So another part, which is related to the previous one, is to isolate your project environment. You can think of scenarios where or someone new joins your team and you want to, in a precise and concise way, to describe what is needed to actually build the project or to run it locally, right? So I see people struggle a lot with that, especially with the data scientists, because especially with Python libraries, sometimes it's really tricky to get the right combinations of dependencies installed. And last one, I think we all know as developers, it's a dependency help, especially if you work with like a non-functional language like Java or Scala, which I do. And you will sometimes have problems installing different libraries, or sometimes you have version conflicts only at runtime, which is annoying. So like a problem in general for across different languages, I think. I don't use Haskell in production or for uh, for real work, then I cannot comment. But at least for other language, I know it's a common problem. But I think Nix can do a lot more in helping that. It just we need to just build up the awareness of Nix so that people can start using Nix to help solving this problem. And what would be the ideal solutions to those issues that I mentioned? So without thinking in any particular or language or tool set, just what would be your ideal solution, right? Let's not talk about the existing tools. So what I want, first, I want infrastructure deployment as code. So I want a single a static file or a repository to completely uniquely determine my infrastructure. Well, of course, I mean the infrastructure on top of your hardware. So on a OS level, that means everything you run on top of Metal. Your Linux kernel, your software management tool, and your individual softwares that you use. For production stuff, it can mean can also mean the network settings, right? You need a firewall. You need a if you want to, for example, a Hadoop cluster or Kubernetes cluster, you also need to specify how different nodes talk to each other. So I want that to be as reproducible as possible. So that's a natural choice to go for infrastructure as code. And on a more personal level, you would like to have your work environment as code or development environment as code, right? And if another person wants to join the team, join the same project, it should be easy to share what is needed to do the work. And also, yeah, it will be easy to, especially for open source projects, it will be easy to get beginners on board. And to solve the dependency health problem, okay, naively thinking, right? If we treat dependencies as values, things should be much easier, right? There wouldn't be any problem. So, yeah, because if you need different versions of different things, why can't different versions coexist? So, luckily, Nix solved those problems in the on a philosophical level, just in the way that I desired. So, and this is just a high level introduction of Nix. So Nix has a pure functional core. It's called Nix, and Nix is okay. Nix is a software or package manager, and also a language. I'll go into the language part in the next slide. And based on this pure core, there's a very rich ecosystem. For example, we have Nix packages. It's basically a community work. It's a repository on GitHub. It's a collection of all the softwares or libraries or packages the community build using Nix. And you can, with this, you can easily install stuff to your own machine. And there's also operating system based on Nix. That's Nix OS. And Nix Ops is for mostly for infrastructure work or DevOps. You can deploy machines, operating systems, software, and environments to different hardwares. And you can also use Nix Ops for your own development. If, for example, you want to use a local version of database, for example, Cassandra or Postgres or Kafka, Elasticsearch, you can deploy those services to containers on using NixOps. So, for example, you can run those in VirtualBox. If you really want that, so NixOps can help with that. But I won't talk too much about NixOps in this talk. Yeah, but the nice thing is that Nix, the ecosystem of Nix doesn't force purity on the user level. That means you have some room to treat. Oh, sorry, I should. It's a typo. It's trade per reproducibility for convenience. I can show you what I mean by this during the demo. That means that means if you don't want 100% reproducibility, there are quick, easy, hacky ways for you to get things done. And okay, before I start the demo, so who should not use Nix? So since I'm arguably still a beginner, I know that I have struggled with Nix. So just I want to warn you so that you'll be aware on your journey. So if you don't value reproducibility at all, I think just don't bother with Nix because there's a very steep learning curve. I'll explain why later during the presentation. And if you don't enjoy learning, again, because Nix has a very different approach or philosophy compared to other software managers or operating systems. And if you have too slow CPU, you shouldn't use Nix. The reason is that Nix build most of the software from source. So compared to other popular Linux distro like a Debian or Ubuntu, Nix is heavier on the computation side because you rarely install binary stuff. Most of the time you install from source basically. But there are tools in the ecosystem to help you. For example, there is a library or there's a actually I don't know, maybe it's commercial tool called Nix cache where you can build once and always download from the cache instead of building from code every time. But that's a different topic. Um, and for on on the same note, actually, because it built from source, some projects or some packages requires a lot of disk space during building. Actually, I've seen this a lot with packages written in C++. So if your OS disk is too small, then yeah, it can be problematic. Okay. All right. So now I want to give a very quick introduction to the Nix language or the packaging manager. The Nix packaging manager is just another software you need to install, right? If you are not using Nix OS, you can install it on your machine right now. So if you use Mac or Ubuntu or other Linux, you just follow the official guide to install it. On that sense, it's not different from other software. Once installed, what you get is you can write in a pure lazy functional language to build your or install your software. And essentially, the packaging manager just evaluates your Nix expressions and writes the package you want to build to Nix store. I'll show this later in the demo. Okay, so here is a piece of Nix expression I copied from the Nix manual, I think. I won't go into details line by line because you can find a lot of learning materials. But another reason that I don't want to dive too deep into this is that as a beginner, I don't think it helps a lot if you try to understand every single line and follow all the guide that I listed here. At least for me, when I started, I found it first very hard to really understand everything, and secondly, it's really not needed. Because next slide will cover what's in my view the best way to start. But here I want to pause a little bit, just quickly highlight some key features of Nix. So first, Nix is a pure functional language. So everything you see is either a function or a function application. So this whole expression is a function. So in this first line, the curly brackets enclose the arguments of function. And this, the second line, is a function application. So the standard if make the derivative is a function defined in the obviously in the standard if attribute set, and this curly bracket is the argument applied to this function. So in nix, curly brackets is for attribute set. So, I mean, if it's not part of the function argument, if it's not in the beginning of the expression, then it means a set. An attribute set is basically a set of values which have names. So the name is the name of this value, hello to blah, and then builder is the name of this value. So okay, this is for now. This is the only thing you need to know. So everything is either function or a functioning application or an attribute set. So yeah, I should say these three possibilities. So for example here, again in this, between these two curly brackets, it's actually the whole thing is attribute set. And URL and the char 256 are just the two attribute names for these two values. And source is the name of the value you get from applying this attribute set to the function fetch URL. Okay, I think that's enough for this quick introduction of the language. More will be covered during the demo. So okay, what's the best approach to start as a beginner? In my perspective, first one is to use nix-shell, and I can show quickly. Oh, sorry, maybe I should. Oh, I think I messed up my presentation. Okay, I shouldn't do that. All right, I think the best way is for me to already start a demo. Okay. So I prepared a scenario where I want to show how you can use nix-shell to solve some real problem. Okay. Here in this repo, I have a two nix-shell file. Well, actually, sorry, I shouldn't say nix-shell file because nix-shell is just a utility tool, and any file ending with .nix is just a nix expression. So here I have two. On the left side, I have a file named JDK8, and on the right, I have a file named JDK11. Probably you already know what I want to show. Obviously, so these are two environments I want to encode, right?
Sorry.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Is it possible to maybe increase the font size a bit?
Good one. Okay, let me try. Oh, seems that it's not easy. You know why? Because I installed this Visual Studio Code in a nix way, so I cannot freely change it. I have to rebuild it probably. But to make it easier, let me see. What's the best? Maybe.
Is it possible to go to like view and increase? Is there like an option in the view? The view option. Maybe appearance. The font size. No.
Maybe?
Yeah, maybe that one.
Yeah, I can't. This is what I tried to do.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I guess we just make do with what we have.
Yeah, I never thought of this. But can you see it at all, or I should really make it larger? Because I can use a different editor, maybe.
I can see it. I'm not sure what about the other people in the call. I think it's still doable for me.
You know what? I'll do this one. I'll use a terminal because at least I can print it out stuff. Where's my terminal? I think I can make this larger, right?
Yes.
Okay. Can you all see this clearly?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I have two nix files. So one is JDK8, another is JDK11. So imagine that I need to do two projects, right? One is a project requiring JDK8, another JDK11. In the past, I couldn't easily get two versions of JDK installed because when you install the Java stuff, yeah, it's shared globally on your machine. There's no easy way. So, but with the Nix, this is actually very easy. The way you use nix-shell is just to type nix-shell. Okay, all this is based on that you have Nix installed. You just type nix-shell and then the file name. In this case, GDK. In case you want to enforce purity, you can add this pure argument so that it will not take any packages or software installed outside this shell. So now I'm in it already. You can't see the build log because I already built it before. So what I want to show you is now I have a Java version 1.8. That means GDK 8. Sorry, and that means I'm using Java 8. So if I want to develop in another project with Java 11, I'll just first print it out. You can see that the first part is different from the other one. Okay, I'll come back to this point later. But let me just show you. Let me prove that I get a different environment by running. Now, if I do Java version, I get a JDK 11. That means I'm using Java 11. So this is an example of how nix-shell can help you get an isolated project environment. Maybe it's a good time for me to go over the Nix language again. So it's like Haskell. It has this let binding, which is very handy. Again, remember I said in Nix, everything is either a function or function application or attribute set. So the first line means here you see two function application actually. So this highlighted part is applying Nix packages to import function. So you get something, right? And then you apply that something, sorry, you apply empty set to, sorry, the other way around. Yeah, you apply the function to argument, right? Not the other way around. I always confuse with this. And then this is your package. So with package just means I'm going to bring in everything defined within the package, which is the attribute set, to the scope of the following expression. So now I'm just building a derivation. I'll come back to this later. And the build input is where I get all the predefined, I shouldn't say pre-built, predefined packages from nix packages. So remember I said that nix packages is a collection of the community built software written in nix, and here I just get them for free. I don't have to build them because I already built with within nix packages. So the difference between this approach and the other approach is that this in this example, the first line is not pure. What I mean is that when you run it at different time or different people run it, the result can be different. But in this approach, this is the pure approach. So the first few lines describe where I get those packages. So instead of relying on the mutable nix packages variable, for now you can treat it as a mutable variable. I can come back to it later if I have more time. So instead of relying on the mutable nix packages, now I clearly demand to use the packages or software defined in a particular commit in the nix packages repository. So I'm basically downloading all of the source code of the nix packages repository and make sure it's reproducible. So the ref variable defines the commitment the commit hash, and this is used in the URL part. And the hash is universally used in nix packages. The hash part is to ensure reproducibility, because if you only rely on the URL without knowing the hash, then there's also a security risk, because if people will change the content of the same the content of the same URL, then you don't know. So that means, okay, at different times you may get different result. By enforcing a hash, then you know for sure that this one is always reproducible. So nothing is moving. So that means anyone who has this file get the same result when running the nix-shell. Okay, so then let me talk about the nix packages. What happens under the hood is that there's a concept called nix channels. Okay, sorry, maybe it's channels. I need to rely on the URL in the presentation. Okay, so I realized the talk is going slower than I expected. Let's see the. Okay, I'll come back to the Nix channel part later. Let me show you another useful applications. So with nix-OS and the home managers. So I think I forgot to update my slide. So I meant to also include the home manager. Okay, so in this file is an example of a nix-OS configuration. So that means this file completely determines my whole operating system and any software running on it. I won't go into it line by line. I just want to highlight some parts. So the hardware part is actually automatically generated by the install phase of nix-OS. So you don't have to write this part. This hardware configuration includes your disk partition mappings. And so this is the phone I want to use. It's not so important. So I want to show you how to specify all the software I want to install. So actually, this is like a Haskell. So this square brackets encodes a list. So here are the software or packages I want to install on the operating system. So for example, I have a Firefox wrapper. I have a Vim, VS Code. So for Bluetooth, I can also install several software. For, in this case, I had the Blueman. So it appears a bit sudden, right? Why suddenly I got a list?
Then maybe increase the font also in the browser.
Oh yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Now, another interesting part is where do I different kernel? In this example, I didn't specify which Linux kernel I want to use, but I want to say that it's also super easy to swap between different Linux kernels. You just put one line or two in your configuration file and just rebuild. It's super easy. Okay, here's another example. It's an example of how I configure my laptop software. So this file specify every software I want to install, not on the OS level, but on my user profile. So as you can see, this is the way I install Visual Studio Code. I just specify, I want it by saying enable is true. Then the more interesting part is the packages I want to install or the extensions if you use VS Code. So for example, I want remote SSH. Then inside the remote SSH, I also want certain extensions to work. So in that case, I wanted, because I do Scala, so I wanted this particular extension to work on the remote session, which is actually quite easy to configure. I would say it's actually much easier than other using other approach, because now you have a reproducible way to make VS installation with working remote extensions. I think that is for now. So this is how, as a beginner, you can leverage the power of Nix to achieve reproducibility and isolation. And actually, depending on the time, we decide how deep we go. Let me come back to my slides. So yeah, super useful links are these two. It's really helpful for me as beginners to actually search stuff. So for example, if you want to install Zoom, then you can just search if Zoom is available. Of course, it gives you a result with Zoom in either the package name or the attribute name. So you have to see which one is the package or software you really want. So for example, here we have this Zoom, but this Zoom is for gaming probably. And actually, this Zoom is for video conferencing. This is what the one I wanted. So it actually tells you how you can install it on your machine. Again, this is the impure way. So, but as a beginner, it's okay to do it. I can show you maybe. So if I'm lazy, I just want to install Zoom this way. Currently not installed. Oh yeah, because I think the reason is I don't want this impure way of installing stuff. I think I disabled this on my machine. So we can just follow this guy to no, actually this won't work because this is disabled. Okay, so I can't show you this because I decided this is good for my learning to not use it. This is a very impure way of installing stuff. The way you should install things are either using the config file approach, like I showed you in either this home manager configuration file or the operating system configuration file, or in the nix-shell example. You should always if you pursue reproducibility, you should always do this. And then these ones normally also occur in the Nix package search website. So for example, OpenJDK11 should also appear in this, where do I have it? Sorry. Yeah, here. Yeah. So you can see I can find JDK11 and JDK8. I don't know why I couldn't find the one I specified. Oh, JDK11 is here. So the best way is to find your packages here and always use a fixed commit to build it. And this file is how I build my slide. I think we're running out of time, so I won't really dive into it. So okay, I just want to quickly go through the slides, and you can later check out all the links. And how you can get help from the community. First, just use GitHub issues, because you can report issues as you find them, and also search in the closed issues to see if anyone has encountered similar problem. And even if an issue is closed, you can still leave comments or ask questions there. There's also Nix Discourse. It's a forum where you can ask your questions. Another one is there's a functional programming Nix Slack channel, where they have a Nix channel. Let me see if I have it. So yeah, here this one is the functional programming Slack channel, or I should say Slack workspace. And then there's a Nix channel. And every day there are multiple threads, so people are really helpful. So I find it particularly helpful to use those tools I mentioned. And you can find more information on the official Nix Got Help page, I think. Okay, I think that's the end of the presentation. So I think now is a good time to answer questions, if I'm not too bad at running over time.
It's okay. We have like 5 minutes.
Okay.
So yeah, if anybody has questions, please ask. Also, people on YouTube, you could type in the questions and I will collect it and repeat it. I think YouTube is a little bit, there's a bit of delay.
I have a question, if I can ask. Yeah, regarding the usage of Nix on as an operation system on a desktop. So, for instance, how would you, I don't know, configure Wi-Fi connections?
Good question. Let me see if I include that in my example. Cellular network. Okay, for desktop, if you this is how you configure firewall. Wireless, you mean like Wi-Fi, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think here this is how you configure it. You just say wireless enable is true. This is yeah. I commented out because it's a desktop and I don't need Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So basically, it configures the network manager, right? But what if you, I don't know, if you want to pass some parameters which network manager don't really pass to WPA supplicant, which is probably the underlying tool for actually accessing the Wi-Fi. And yeah, well, what would you do if you need, for instance, to configure a very manual Wi-Fi connection with WPA supplicant directly?
Yeah, good question. Again, you can do fancier than this, of course. It depends on your need. I don't have an example at hand. Maybe I can show you one example. Okay. So once for work, I need to set up a VPN, I think. You can see this is how I configure my VPN requirements. Yeah, you can, of course, I changed this. All the sensitive stuff are already modified. But you can do fancier stuff. This is how you use a strong swap for the your VPN setting, and if you want to set up your password in a reproducible way, there's also an option. You can just put your password hash in it, but you still need to remember your password yourself to connect to Wi-Fi. But yeah, I'm sure you can find more examples on Google. Here, I don't do fancy stuff with Wi-Fi. I think VPN is the most complicated work I did for internet.
Yeah, I think somebody already shared the link in the chat. So
yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.